I had just made the executive decision that I will be permanently leaving the United States in less than a year and a half. Say what you will, but this is every reason I have of why I want to leave. Let's speed run this shit. Number one, if you're not making at least $150,000 a year or more, or at least have multiple streams of income, congratulations, you will be struggling for a very long time. Rent is incredibly expensive. It is almost impossible to buy a house. People cannot afford to rent an apartment or to live by themselves. Wages have been decreasing. Insurance is a scam. Healthcare.
Peace, y'all. The American dream's having a moment, okay? And it's not a good one. People from all walks of life, all backgrounds, all income levels are hitting the exact same wall. And it's getting harder to live. And more, a lot of folks are asking, do I actually have to stay here? So today I went ahead and pulled 4 clips that basically tell, a lot of the story. And I want to talk about, what they get right in these clips and what they are leaving out and what nobody actually wants to say out loud.
Insurance has went up and millions of American citizens no longer have healthcare. Many of the jobs online that you can apply to are fake. Hundreds of thousands of people are losing their jobs. Inflation keeps increasing and all the administration has to do is blame Biden for it. Number two, racism is extremely belligerent all across the United States. Not just towards black people, but for other people of color who isn't a white Christian. Black people.
And y'all know, the racism thing is not new. That's not a new story. We've been dealing with that. But now, as other people are starting to have to deal with the fact that, this administration is anti anything that's not pale, anybody who's not pale branco, that includes the Latinos that are being shipped off in this whole ICE debacle and a whole lot of other people who are starting to be victimized. So it's not just us, it's not just black folk no more. And so now it's starting to be, like a major conversation for a lot of people who it originally never was for, right? Because people are realizing that in this new America, nobody is safe.
And other people of color are losing their rights, their equality, and their freedom. Asians, Hispanics, Arabs, Muslims, the list goes on. This country is incredibly hateful, spiteful, and the only thing they do is blame others for their downfall. Since the beginning of 2025, based on records, 7 black men has been found lynched. Still no justice for any of them to this day. White supremacists, Proud Boys, Nazis, they're out there marching, chanting out in public while our government, our president, and our law enforcement does nothing about it. Number 3, we are completely controlled by Israel and billionaires. We fall under an oligarchy. But hey, at least Elon Musk will become a trillionaire, right? Number 4, since the beginning of 2025, there has been 75 school shootings. 53 are dead, while 148 were injured. There has been 84 mass shootings, not including school shootings. The death count is still climbing to this day. Number 5, bombing and going to war with unnecessary countries. Iran, Venezuela. Need I say more? Number 6, tariffs. They have done nothing but make the American citizens' lives harder. All it did was make everything more expensive. It was supposed to bring back jobs to the United States, but we're actively losing them.
I feel like this guy is saying a lot of what everyone is kind of feeling right now in their bones, like something is not right, like this is not doable, this is not feasible. And I feel like there's more and more people who are waking up to the fact that, you can't numb and get through this no more. Like it's a time where you're going to have to make some actions, make some drastic changes in your life. And right now, that awakening is really, really picking up. So it's exciting to see. And yeah, let's hear more of what he's got to say about it.
Number 7, our administration and the government has severely defunded the education system. Colleges, high schools, even Ivy Leagues has been severely defunded. So much so that they don't even have enough money to give out scholarships to the kids who rightfully deserve it. Number 8, tax breaks, not for the average American citizen, but for billionaires and anyone else who is making over $250,000 a year. Anyone else who falls under that bracket, congratulations, you're getting taxed more. Number 8, insurance company has the absolute right to decline you of any services if they don't feel like paying it to you. If you get cancer, break an arm, maybe get sick or something else happens, maybe a car accident, they can look at that shit and go, nah. Or better yet, they could just flat out cancel your insurance claim or your account. Number 9, maternity leave fucking sucks in the United States. The most you'll ever get, especially after you've gave birth, is maybe 2 months. Most likely less. Remember, you're a slave to the corporation. You don't actually have freedom. Pay time off, sick leave, just about. You get hardly any of that. When you
I mean, hearing him list all of these things that are just inhumane, basically, not allowing people to have the right to healthy, clean food, to basic, health services, to the right to a decent life, a dignified life, is what a lot of people are waking up to the reality of living in the United States right now. And even people in a further video in, you'll see even people who did all the things. They went to school, they got the education, they got the job, they did all the things. It's still not enough for a lot of folks right now. And so it's important that, we start to read the signs. I think a lot of people need to really wake up and start to really read the signs and see what's happening around them.
have accumulated at least 2 weeks of vacation time in the last 3 years alone, they will do everything they can to keep you from not taking it. What can I say? That's American corporations, right, America? Number 10, there are American celebrities and billionaires, including multiple people who hold a chair in the government affiliation and power, are human traffickers. Number 11, America doesn't have universal health care. That's a big one. So if you get sick, have cancer, break a leg, maybe get shot, guess what? It costs you an arm and a leg to get better. I still have like 10 more, but I'm not going to do that. Don't worry, ladies and gentlemen. America's the greatest country in the world.
Yeah, so he said a mouthful there, okay? And he's not wrong, and what gets me is that this isn't like a fringe thing anymore. When the people who did all the things, did everything right, to start telling you something is structurally broken, not just, the country going through a hard phase, you have to listen. We're talking housing costs, child care, student loans, all kinds of insanity that people are not being afforded right now to even just have a normal life. It's something to think about. So he's not lying, he's not wrong. And what gets me is that this isn't just a fringe thing anymore. It's not just those of us who are considered to be like conspiracy theorists, or we just be doing too much and we're just running and there's no real reason to be leaving the US. Why would you want to leave your country and all of that? Now the average people, the regular folks, the people who were super caught up in America and thought that they were in the best country in the world, now they're looking at things like, what is really, really going on? Okay. And when the people who did all the things, did everything right, went to school, when they start telling you something is broken structurally, okay, we're talking healthcare, childcare, job access, student loans, access to housing. Phew, the floor, it just keeps dropping, y'all. And here's what I want you to notice is that he is not actually naming the problem in this video. He's naming the problem, but he's not really giving solutions yet, okay? So that's where the next few clips will come in.
Family here. I got a couple of friends a few hours away. I have over 80 family members in America, and I couldn't hack it. I live in a 3-bedroom apartment overlooking the Atlantic coast in Morocco. I'm just outside of less here than I paid for a 1-bedroom dingy old apartment overlooking an ugly parking lot. I have a private chef. I have a nanny here. If I want to ride anywhere, I'm getting there for like $5.
And this is important to see people who have already done it, who have already left, such as myself, because this isn't theory. This goes beyond theory now. This is people who have actively put a plan in place and got themselves into safety, really, because your mental health is part of how you feel safe. And if your mental health is under consistent and constant pressure, you're not safe. There's nothing safe about that. This woman's in Morocco now. She's a single mother, which is why I brought her on, because women are doing it with their children alone at this point. Several children. I know women with several children who are moving abroad, who are leaving, getting out of the rat race. And we just got to do what we got to do right now to preserve our mental states, really.
Are you kidding me? This is my life. I wake up, I work here, I go to sleep here, I eat dinner here. Looking at this. My nervous system, so chill. Inflammation, all the way down. I don't get sick. I don't get sick. I don't get sick. I was sick like every 5 fucking minutes in America. Please, someone tell me. Talk about this. This is your sign. America's great for making money, horrible for living. Get out. Get out of there.
Okay. I love this energy. I love this energy. And at the end of the day, some people, they move abroad and they try to make it all look like it's, roses and butterflies and perfect. And yeah, we know that that's not the fact for everyone. One of the clips that I chose today is going to kind of dive into that. But a lot of people are doing a lot better, okay? And number one, she said it, just health alone, having access to fresh food, having access to food that's not grown with a whole lot of chemicals, a whole lot of nitrogen to force it to grow faster and bigger, a whole lot of mess that your body actually cannot process. I mean, they are using like a host of crazy chemicals on the food, not to mention spraying the air in the US, poisoning the water, drink, using up all the water, just doing everything to the basics. So people can't even just have their basics at this. And the cost of living thing is real. I live this. When I tell people sometimes, what my overhead is here in Brazil, believe me, I live in the most expensive city in Latin America, Sao Paulo. But my cost of living is still, for the quality of life that we have here, so much better than it could ever be in any American city, included in the South. But I do want to say, and I'm sure her experience is very real for her. But I don't think that a sign is what you necessarily need. I mean, you do need a plan. And a sign, it gets you excited, it gets you hyped. You see the signs, you read the signs, but it doesn't tell you where to land. It doesn't tell you how to handle the paperwork, how to get your visa sorted, how to help your kids adjust. What happens, when you do get sick abroad. Okay, so all of these concerns are valid concerns that a lot of people do need support with. So the logistic part is a whole nother part of the conversation. And that's not me being, pessimistic or trying to discourage people, but that's me being someone who's actually done this several times because I never wanted to be in the US. And Morocco, it's not America. Sao Paulo's not America. So more than a sign, you also need to know that you want to experience something different and you want to go somewhere different, and not just because it's cheaper, but because the quality of life that you seek can be found better somewhere else. Okay.
Got my degree, graduated college, moved out, got my first apartment, moved to another city, did all the things of the things. And now I'm here to tell you that I drank the Kool-Aid in my early 20s. Now that I'm going into my 30s, like I'll be 30 next month, I promise my 30s are not going to be lived like my 20s.
And this is a brother who has done all of the things. Similar to me, lots of education, had the jobs, did what they said was the right things to do. And still, if not finding any peace or any wealth or any ability to have a high quality of life living in the US, even despite having, dotted your I's and crossed your T's and did all the things they said would lead you to a successful life, right? So, this is something to consider because the reality is, at this point, none of us could have necessarily been prepared for where things are at right now. But honey, it still it don't mean that you don't need to be able to pivot and shift and figure out a new route. Okay. And so I think he describes, the fact that despite having done all of this stuff, he is now in a situation where he feels like he needs to pivot because the quality of living is not doing what it's supposed to do right now for a lot of people, for millions of people.
This whole grind, let me keep trying to find my purpose and keep trying to find my career and like, what am I, that's coming to an end. Because I had to just be real and just like really think like, what exactly am I working towards? there's not a clear thing that I'm like really working towards. Am I working towards owning a home? No, I don't give a fuck about that. Am I working towards upgrading my life? Am I working towards buying a Benz? No, I don't give a fuck about that shit.
Right.
So like, what exactly am I working towards? Like, the whole goal in America is literally to be the top consumer, and I'm not subscribed to that. Like, I do not care about being the number one consumer and the number one hardest working slave in the country. Like, that is not what I want to aspire to be. That's not what I aspire to do. I don't aspire for most material things, and I think
Mm.
it comes with age that I'm not impressed with what anyone has. Like, no one impresses me with what they have. I don't care about what you have, because what, you gonna give me it? No. So why do I give a fuck? So I am absolutely making it my 30s to, one, just try to find things that I like to do. Like, I'm falling in love with fun. I'm falling in love with the game. Like, I'm tired. I'm done with the whole, like, I'm just trying to work and I want to be the CEO of a big company and blah, blah, blah. All the shit that they fed us when we were kids, bro, I'm not even entertaining that shit no more. And like, there's a lot of people that are like, you know, like, they still want to climb the corporate ladder, and that's okay with them, but I'm literally not. Like, I'm tapping out right here, right now. It's a wrap.
Period.
I'm spending my 30s getting out of this fucking country. Like, I want
Mm.
to make it a point to, by the time I am 40, I need to be established and living in another country. I don't see me having a future in the United States. Like, I don't see that. I don't see a future in the United States. When I think of 10 years from now, I definitely don't see it in the United States.
Uh,
And if I did, it would be foggy, because like, I don't see a future for myself here, if that makes sense. I'm just not seeing it. So I really say this.
and this brother, he for me, there's two camps, so this one kind of hits different for me because he kind of exemplifies the second camp, because the two camps are, those who those who can't afford to stay literally have to leave. Like, if they're going to have a house, be able to house themselves, house their children, okay, they literally have to leave. And then there's the people who technically could leave, okay, um, or they could stay, but they're looking at the cost of staying. And that cost is your time, your energy, your health, your mental health, your autonomy, your right to not be watched and clocked and surveilled incessantly, okay, your right to not have to encounter and deal with crazy, unhinged races and Karens and insanity on a regular basis simply because you exist and you're brown, okay? And then I think for this guy, he has just decided that the math is not mathing. The cost is not, it's not worth it. And so he's kind of in that second camp. I think that is a camp that's growing fast. When the reward for doing everything you were supposed to do is a 60-hour work week, a mortgage that's got you underwater, or maybe, a retirement at 70, people are going to start asking, whether this game is a game that's worth playing. And opting out is not running, it's not laziness. Sometimes it's the rational move on the board. And I think more and more people are starting to see that opting out of this rat race will preserve their life and allow them to have longevity.
All to say is that I've literally seen everything that this godforsaken country has to offer. I
Gosh.
see how they treat all the different races. I see how black people are treated in this country.
Mm.
Y'all, like, there is nothing, I hate to sound like this, but there is nothing left to fight for. Like, this place, there is no saving this. Like, this whole America
Sinking
is
ship.
literally just a big experiment that they've been experimenting for the last 200 something years. And bro, like, I am exhausted.
Mm.
Like, the latest verdict with the child killing the black boy, with the black boy killing the white guy, and bro,
Craziness.
black fatigue is very real. Like, I am so checked out of this fucking country that I can't pretend to give a fuck about much things, because I truly don't. So
Mm-mm.
yeah, I got a blast. Hopefully I'll journey the whole thing and I'll end up somewhere. But yeah, That is my mission. That is going to be my life mission, to make it out the
Mhm.
United States. That is the new American dream. Let's get it.
That's it. And that is the new American dream, y'all. I mean, we're seeing it in real time, like it's happening. Like everything that we thought, life was going to be about, and what success would look like and everything. Now, the American dream is to have enough of, at least some kind of income streams, enough to get you a residency in another country, somewhere where you can live like a human being still, somewhere where you can still, you know, have joy, experience joy, not just constant, incessant pressure upon your head. And, there are some people who are doing better than others in the US, but ultimately, so many folks are in deep inside of a struggle, okay, and torn on the inside because they know that this is a struggle that they can disengage from, and yet folks feel stuck. They feel like they don't have the know-how. They feel like they don't know where to go or what it would look like, or if I move, am I going to be able to come back? If I need to come back and set myself up, back up in America because shit don't work out overseas, am I going to even be able to do that? Because the barrier to entry for almost everything is off the chain right now. So, you can't get into an apartment without having, 10G ready to put down on it. You can barely, in most places in America, it's really hard to create a lifestyle that um, feels good. People still want to feel good. Folks don't just want to be working. You know what I mean? Just working, that's it. So yeah, I mean, this is I'm glad to see it. I've been had this awareness that that wasn't the right life for me, for 20 something years, most of my life. So I'm glad to see it. I have been excited to watch the awakening. Okay. And now I want to just focus on this last video. And it's a sister who I thought this video was very valid. She brings a kind of another energy to the table. I mean, for me, it's like the cold water, that wakes you up. And I think it's important that we look at all aspects of what it means to move abroad, and that there are things that you may lose and that you may have to learn to rebuild, such as a tribe, such as community, such as connections. I mean, which really at the end of the day ends up being the most important thing in our lives. Beyond the money and the assets and all the things, we really just want that tribe. We want the connectedness and the belonging. And I think that this video, though different from the ones that I already played, is a good kind of wake up call that, yeah, it's important that you choose well and that you know a little bit about what you're going towards. And that's why I live in Brazil. I came to Brazil because I've been here, times before, lived here times before. I know the quality of life. I know that socially you can build a tribe here. There's enough foreign folks, African Americans, and local people that are friendly. This is a very black country, lots of beautiful indigenous people, kind people, and it's got a great energy. So I knew this wouldn't be nowhere where we'd come and have to really deal with high levels of isolation, even though as a foreign outsider, you are always going to have moments when you feel that. Okay, it's not like you ever fully belong somewhere that you're not from. Or some of us, we don't feel like we fully belong anywhere, period. And that just is what it is. But somewhere like Brazil, I think especially brown folks should have on their list, because you can build here, you can connect, you can, feel joy, and not be, walking around in Europe somewhere where there's barely anybody that looks like you and you getting treated like shit. Okay, so let's check this sister out and let's talk about it.
In America, and there was a couple of different camps. There were people that were saying, this is my home, I ain't leaving, and ain't nobody gonna run me out of this country. And there was other people who were in various stages of decisions around deciding to leave, either permanently or temporarily until things got better. And it was interesting to hear, for those who were planning to leave, what level of due diligence they had done in advance of making the decision. And I really think we need to do a better job, because watching videos on social media,
Mm,
highly curated videos from creators who have packed up on a tourist visa and moved abroad and are recording scenery from an Airbnb
mm,
is not how you plan to move abroad. They are hustling you.
Yes.
One of the creators that I follow, I'm not going to name her name, but she broke, uh, in the last couple of days. She
Yep.
recorded a live, and she was typically, you would see her walking in this lush, climate, with beautiful gardens, and she was looking.
And I do think this is an issue with a lot of the influencers and the content creators who are doing the digital nomad thing or moving abroad. For those of us, especially who have families and children and stuff, we're a lot of us are looking for something that feels more stable, more settled. So it's not about trying to project this, oh, you leave the country and you're just free, everything's good. Like, let's deal with it on a realistic level. Let's put a plan together. Let's make sure we choose to go somewhere that don't just look pretty on Instagram, that isn't just the aesthetic, but is also practical and will work for you. And especially if you're a family person and you have children and you're thinking about all levels of things, from security to, being able to access good housing, to, being able to find all of the things your family needs to stay healthy and well, and all the things you need to know what you're getting into. Because if you don't do that, a lot of us, we end up bouncing back and forth, going back and forth to the US, having to be back in the US because we can't figure it out overseas, or we choose somewhere that's not the right spot, that is not going to give us what we need, and we end up, just having to. Okay.
So peaceful and so happy. But she was by herself, and so I was always paying attention. And she
Mm-hmm.
came back and she said that, literally said, I have been lying to you guys.
Mm.
That she has made everything flowery and beautiful, but also dealing with some serious shit. And that she landed herself in a place where she is perceived to be a rich American, and she is getting gringo priced.
Mm.
That the niceness that she talks about and extols about the people where she lives, those are service people that
Mm-hmm.
are being paid to be nice. They, of course, will be nice when you're patronizing their businesses or you're hiring them for services. But even then, you get a higher price because you are a rich American. Now, she's not a rich American at all. In fact, she said she was barely holding on in America.
Mm.
She relocated for one reason, for a lower cost of living. But she also recognizes that she is part of the gentrification of the local area. There is resentment from the locals, and that she's having trouble finding people who are genuinely receptive to her as
Mm.
an American, who don't want her money, who don't see her as someone to be finessed. That real friendships have been hard.
And you will find this in a lot of countries, especially the countries that are very much catering to tourism. One of the things I like about Brazil is that even though it's starting to get on the radar as a tourist destination, it's never been high on a lot of people's lists. Even though it's an amazing country with great quality of life, they don't really cater to tourists, outside tourists like this. This country is huge. Tourism usually goes from the south to the north, but they have so much internal tourism of just people wanting to go up and experience the more tropical, black or browner parts of the country up north, that it's not about catering to foreign people. So when you come here, you can just jump in and kick it, and you can make connections, and they be authentic ones, because Brazilians overall are very quite cool people, quite authentic mostly, ones that you'll come across. And so it's really, really a different experience here, because, like, I've been to other places, obviously, like Mexico. I've lived there. We've lived in Costa Rica. We've lived in, France, different places. And yeah, you might be catered to a degree because you are a gringo, and your money kind of gives you certain leverage and privilege. But ultimately, you have to find a place where you can go and feel a part of the environment. And there aren't a lot of spots like that in the world. But when you go somewhere and you start to realize, wow, I really am an outsider here. They don't really see me like the same as them. It's no, that can be very disheartening. And it can, kind of hijack your whole experience and your whole journey, and have you bouncing back to the US again. So instead of doing that, I think the conversation that this video here, this clip, is having in this video is, a valid one and an important one. We need to be really, really making sure that we do our due diligence before we get out here in the world and mess up, especially if you have a family, because your children are going to be looking at you like, well, what are you doing? You just moved us here. Now you saying it's not good. So we need to really, really, do a good job with the planning process.
because sooner or later they get around to putting their hand out and asking. And that's not a reason. That's not a reason to exclude a country. But that's also just evidence that people get on here, get on this social media site, and are misleading or not being completely honest about the experiences that they're having. And it would be helpful to have both the good, the bad, and the ugly and let people make their decisions, knowing that their experiences could be different, but at least this is something that you have to watch out for. Now, the other folks that I was watching, they have highly curated videos, like I said, from Airbnbs. Oh, this is what I'm renting. And if you want to live a nomadic life or a digital nomad, that's great. If you got children, you need to plant roots somewhere, that lifestyle isn't going to be for you. I will go to their pages and see when they were in the United States that they had a tribe, that they were out at concerts, they had their friends, they were doing things, they were shopping, they were going to concerts and events, they had family get togethers, and then they're walking literally by themselves up and down a new foreign land that they find themselves in. No friends, just either servants or people who are bringing their meals to them. It takes a while to develop a tribe. And
Mhm.
among a whole bunch of other things, what was just astounding to me is that people were making decisions to do this, but hadn't done enough due diligence to really understand what they were getting themselves into. All the
And, I think this is a great subject that she brought up. She's telling the truth, and I appreciate sis for it. This is a conversation that it doesn't tend to go viral really because it doesn't feel as good as the highlight reel showing that, I moved to Bali, and all of that. The isolation can be real. There are days, even if you have settled in and you have friends and community, even after you have realized that you love your new life abroad, where you do feel like a ghost. You feel like you blend in. You feel invisible sometimes, like you exist in between worlds and you don't fully belong to neither world, okay? And that is a real thing, and you do have to have the capacity to sit with that, to understand that, to allow it, but not to allow it to just become your permanent reality. Like really, really get in there when you move to another country and try to understand their way and try to make connections that are authentic. And again, there are places where this is going to be done with more ease than others. And the gringo part of what she's saying, being the foreigner, the one that they think is the rich foreigner, that can be frustrating. I mean, practically in some places you will be charged more. There are places like that, especially if you're on the continent in Africa or somewhere like that. And some places you'll be watched differently. You might be stared at. Here in Brazil, you're not, because there's so many of us out here. They don't care. In some places, people will assume things about you based on where you're from, and you don't get to really leave that dynamic behind. That will be there sometimes, but what you want to do is choose somewhere where you're embraced for being a human first, and that you're not castigated or treated poorly because you are American and you're trying to find a new life abroad. But another thing I would add is that preparation isn't the only thing. It's not the cure, but it is protection and it is like armor in a certain way. Knowing what's coming, it doesn't make it not be hard. It just means that it won't break you when these challenges come up. You'll be able to sit with them, you'll be able to vibe it out, figure out, okay, how can I shift this energy? How can I, sit with it if I need to sit with it? Okay. And so I would say all of these clips that we just saw all have, some things in common. They're all responding to basically the broken promise of America Okay. You work hard, you follow the rules, and you're good. You'll be taken care of. And for a lot of people, that promise is not being lived out, it's not being kept. Some people, they're leaving because they have to leave, some because they want to leave, and some are, somewhere in between that. What I will tell you is this: wherever you land in that spectrum, the answer is not just, oh, let me go fill it out. I do feel like, putting some energy towards planning, research, figuring out what the community will be like. It's about having the conversations with people in the group chats, on the Facebook groups, getting in there and talking to the ones that are living it in real life before you get there, not just looking at Instagram highlight reels and thinking that that's kind of the fullness of the picture and the reality of that place. And that is basically what we do over here. I mean, if you're serious and you're not just dreaming about it, but you're looking to really make some moves, stick around, check out our content, drop any questions in the comments below. If you're on the fence right now, shit, send if you know someone that's on the fence, send them this video. They need to see it, especially if they're parents and have families that are looking for a better life for them and their loved ones. And here at Find Your Free, we do offer tours here in Sao Paulo. We also offer relocation consultations for people who are moving to Brazil, but also for people who are looking to move to other parts of the world that we are familiar with, which that's a lot of regions. We've lived in Central America, the Caribbean, Hawaii. We've lived in parts of Africa. We've lived in Europe. So there are quite a few places that we have a lot of familiarity with and can support you in your movements, in sorting through everything and putting your plan together for you and your family. So yeah, if any of that sounds good, like the video, comment below, and check out all of my links. My links are nicely organized below the video so you can tap into whatever resource you need. Okay, and give thanks, y'all. I hope you have a blessed one. Peace.